Is it still worth buying a house in the UK on a visa? That's a question on a lot of people's minds, considering the constant immigration changes that seems to affect so many migrants. And a lot of people are asking, is it worth it? Is there even any point buying a house, getting a mortgage? Is it going to get any easier? What if I would have to leave the UK? And all of that. I know that we have so many questions, and that is why I had to bring an expert to help answer all those questions that we as migrants might have. So stay with me. I'm going to bring him in now, and then we can just get started. You don't want to miss this video. Hello, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Tochi, firstly, for having me. I think you're right as well. It's an incredibly important topic at the moment. Lots of questions in people's minds, I know. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Ripley. I am the founder of First Home Finance. We are a mortgage broker who specialise in helping people that have moved to the UK to buy their first home here. So a lot of our clients have these same questions. We're asked these things all the time. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to sharing a bit about what actually is the case, what lenders care about, and what the possibility of getting mortgages.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to do this. This is the right time to do this, considering everything that is going on now. Like, there's just so many uncertainty, and I understand that people even have their reservations when it comes to buying a house. Like, is there even a point? So, what would you say to anyone on a skilled worker visa, or even on a visa, any type of visa at all? Is it still worth it? Do you think it's actually worth it buying a home in the UK right now?
Yeah, 100%. It definitely does depend on the person. So, of course, it depends on their plans, their current situation. But what I would say is, for most people, it is worth it. Typically, a lot of people that we work with are young families, right? So they might have a couple of small children. They've moved over to the UK. They're working hard. They're trying to build their life here. And I think the issue you get is if you stay renting long term, it is kind of throwing that money away in the long run. If you look at it over a 5, 10, 15 year span, it's a lot of money. Of course, that's nothing to say that it's wrong in the first instance. Of course, once you move here initially, you need somewhere to live, you rent for a bit. But it's really good to get into your mind and start thinking about the possibilities of buying. So I definitely think it's worth it. It means you're paying your own mortgage, right? You're paying that down and you're not then paying the landlord's mortgage, for example.
Thank you so much. So how much does a visa type really affect your chance of getting a mortgage in the UK?
Yeah, so for most visa types, it's completely fine and there's no real issues. So, of course, the most common types being a skilled worker visa or health and social care visa, but also visa types like global talent visas, dependent visas, for example, are completely fine. Even a graduate visa, most of the time, is completely fine. So it's only when we start to use smaller deposit amounts like 5% deposit are there less options. So if you had 10% of the property value as a deposit, then a graduate visa is normally completely fine as well. So typically, really, it's only a student visa that makes it very difficult. So pretty much all visa types are completely fine.
What do you think about buying a property or thinking about getting a mortgage on a study visa?
Yeah, I definitely think it's good to start planning early. So if you're on a student visa at the moment, studying, of course, it's good to start planning. The issue we get with the student visa is that it will only allow you to work for a certain amount of time per week. So then the affordability of how much mortgage you can get is much lower. Of course, if you have a dependent partner who's then working full time, that can help. So it is possible to get a mortgage. So if you are on a student visa, you want to buy, you've got a partner that's working full time, maybe you're working part time as well, then it is possible. Whether or not it's the right thing depends, I guess, on how much deposit you've got, what the affordability is. So even if it's a case of you're just thinking about and planning ahead, so for example, building up your deposit and building your credit profile now, so that when you get your graduate or post-study visa, then you buy, that would still be a good route. Okay.
There's a lot of panic around visa changes lately. So does that really mean, will that affect getting mortgages in any way?
It's a really interesting question, actually, because what we see on the political side and these proposed changes, which I'm completely against. I mean, it almost goes without saying, but I'm completely against, knowing the amazing people that we help every day that have moved over to the UK working extremely hard. Even things, and I try not to get too political here, Tochi, but even things like asking people to do community work and things, like they aren't giving enough already in the jobs that they do, right? It's ridiculous. I think these people who are moving over are working in majority, let's say, healthcare jobs, for example. They're giving to the community already, so I can't see why they should be asked to do things like that. So I'm completely against it. But to answer your question, if changes like a longer route to getting ILR come into play, I don't think it will affect chances of getting a mortgage. And the reason being is because whilst on the political side it seems worse, on the mortgage and financing side, it's getting better. So there's more lenders that will accept visa holders now. There are lower deposit amounts, like I speak about a 5% deposit that can be acceptable. There is even one lender at the moment for shared ownership properties that will allow 0% deposit for a visa holder. They require you to have lived in the UK for 2 years, but this has recently come out. It's something I'll be speaking about more, and we'll be launching, but yeah, it's available. So there are more and more lenders accepting it. So even if the unfortunate situation where they do make it a longer route to getting ILR, I still think getting a mortgage in the UK will be very, very achievable at good interest rates.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah, positive.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, what do you think lenders really check on a visa? Like the amount of time you're supposed to have on your visa to be qualified or considered for a mortgage and stuff like that?
Yeah, fine. So I think the easiest way of breaking this down is by deposit size. And the reason being is because it changes quite a lot. So if we start with let's actually start with the shared ownership 0% deposit that I mentioned, because that's the new lowest option for the deposit. So with that, they actually have no minimum time remaining on your visa. They just require you to have lived in the UK for at least 2 years. So even if you had 1 month remaining on your visa, they would still give you the mortgage, which is fantastic. If we go to the lenders that are available with a 5% deposit, then there is a real range. There are some lenders that require as much as 2 years to be remaining on your visa in order to grant the mortgage, and there are others that only require 3 or 4 months remaining. So again, it's a real range, and it will depend on a few other factors which lender that we can use for the specific individual. If you have a 10% deposit, then again there is a range, but most lenders are much more acceptable to them to use 3 month or 6 month remaining at the end of the visa. So to put it simply, if you have more than 1 year remaining on your visa, pretty much every lender in the market will accept you. If you've got more than 6 months, again, there's still quite a lot of options available.
Okay, so let's say I have less than 6 months on my visa and I really have the money, like the deposit, everything ready to get a mortgage. Do you think that's possible? And have you helped anybody before that has just less than 6 months on their visa get a mortgage?
Yeah, it's 100% possible. And we do have got plenty of examples. We've got someone at the moment who's only got 3 months remaining on their visa. Getting a mortgage, but we've helped people with even less than that. So for example, 2 months remaining. It's completely possible. Of course, for your own purposes, you want to be very sure that that's getting renewed. But for most people working, let's say, on a skilled worker visa, it's almost guaranteed that it's going to get renewed. So yeah, it's completely fine.
But what if your visa doesn't get renewed? What happens? Have you thought about that before?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. I think it's an important topic. So although it's unlikely, if it did happen and you had to leave the UK, and let's say you now own a property here, it's still your property. You don't just lose the property because you're now a non-UK resident. There are plenty of people who are non-UK residents. They live outside of the UK and they own property in the UK. In that instance, you could rent the property out to a tenant. So then you'd be getting the rental income. And of course, let me use, if you don't mind, Nigeria as an example. If you've seen what's happened with Naira versus the pound over the last 5 years, it's really taken a beating, unfortunately. And if you were to own a property here that had rental income and you were living in Nigeria, the conversion back to Naira is so strong that it would, I want to say you could probably live off of that rental income, right? So, I mean, I don't know the exact figures, but it would be a good investment. So I think even when we work with clients and their long-term ambition is, I want to go back home, as they would say, right, go to Nigeria, Ghana, wherever it might be. It's owning a property here is still a good investment, and it's still yours. You don't just lose it the day you move out of the UK.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, so now we've established all of that. Let's talk about mistakes that people make that could have their mortgage applications denied.
Yeah, very good question, actually. So I think some of the mistakes that we see is, I'm going to start with the deposit and talking about, again, using Nigeria as the example, what's called in Nigeria ajo, right? So with ajo, of course, a lot of our clients do ajo and savings schemes, right? And with their community. I completely understand why. It makes complete sense to me. And obviously, I don't have a problem with it. Lenders do, and that is the problem. So if a lender sees that you've been saving up your deposit in a revolving savings scheme like ajo, the solicitor could not sign off your deposit, and then that would prevent you from buying the house. So you could lose out on buying the house. So I think it's very important to be careful about your deposit source, and just make sure that you're saving that up out of your own funds. It's the much better way. If you do ajo, it's best to keep that in a separate account, not use it towards the house purchase at all. Maybe use it for furniture or something, but not towards your deposit, because if they see it in your account circulating around, it becomes a big problem. The reason for that, by the way, is just because they're unable to know the true source of that money. They want to see that your deposit has been built up. You can get a gift, by the way. So if you have a family member that's willing to gift you money, there is even one lender that will accept a gift from a friend, but they still want to see where the money's coming from. So it doesn't matter if that family member or the friend has been doing ajo and is gifting you it, they will still go to their bank statements and have a look. So I think that's the first one to be very careful of. The second one is credit. So something we see commonly is mistakes on credit profiles. And I know that this is just because the credit system in the UK is, one, very confusing, and two, it's just very different, right? It's very different to what anyone's used to. So we see a lot of clients move over to the UK. They might get told, get a credit card, get a loan, just to build up your credit score. But if you miss a payment on that, even if you are 1 or 2 days late on a payment, that will register on your credit profile. And it leaves a negative mark, and it also reduces your credit score. So it's really important to be careful when you're getting credit commitments. Make sure you know what they are, when the money's coming out, make sure that you're paying them on time. With utility bills as well, very important, if you're changing address, make sure that it's either shut down correctly or transferred over to the new address correctly, because that's another one we see where people have missed payments on. It can really affect your ability to get a mortgage. It can make you get a higher interest rate. So just something to be very careful of. But those would be the main two mistakes that we see.
Okay, so in essence, we're saying if you can avoid saving through ajo, then that would be nice. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And just be careful with your credit score. Unfortunately, I know it's not a popular comment for me to make, but yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about ajo, but how about people who want to use money that they've saved from back home? So let's say before moving to the UK, or even while living in the UK, I have some money, or I have a business that's making me money in Nigeria. How can I use that money to deposit or to buy a house in the UK?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's completely acceptable if you've got money abroad to use. Most lenders are fine with it. Again, we just have to make sure that we've got the correct proof, but it's something we're very experienced with at First Time Finance, is making sure we get that correct proof together and making it an easy process. So savings from back home, completely fine. Savings or any money that's been built up in the UK, again, completely fine. Lenders and solicitors are typically looking at a 6-month history of the money. So as long as we can prove where it's been for the last 6 months, most of the time it's completely fine.
So you can confirm that anything from 5% upwards deposit can actually buy somebody a house in the UK, right?
Yeah, exactly. The other part of it is the affordability, right? So you've got the deposit. Let's say you want to buy a house for £200,000 and you've got 10,000 saved. That's 5%. So that can be acceptable. What we then need to make sure, right? So you've got £200,000, you've got your deposit. That makes it then 190,000 left. So we need to be able to get the mortgage for that other £190,000. So to do that, we then look at your income, right? So for example, if you're both earning, let's say £26,000 and there's two of you, you've got £52,000 as your household income. That's both of your gross, so before tax income. Most lenders would then give you a mortgage up to, let's say, somewhere between 200 to 250,000. So in that example, that's enough to get the £190,000. So yes, someone could then buy property for 200,000 with their 5% deposit.
Okay, that's great. What's that one thing that you want every migrant, every foreign national to know before starting their mortgage journey in the UK? Like, I just come to you now and say, and I want to start, I don't know where to start from or what to do. Or somebody who's just coming to the UK for the first time. What's that one thing as an expert that you would want to tell them?
Yeah, speak to the right person. And what I mean by that is the right mortgage broker. I'm very biased because we are a mortgage brokerage at First Time Finance, but I'm not just saying this because it's us. It is so important because we speak to so many people that have worked with other mortgage brokers who are just general mortgage brokers, right? And they get told they need a 25% deposit or 10% deposit when they could actually use less. They also get given more expensive interest rates. They don't get the right level of service. This is very important as well. Getting a mortgage is confusing. It is important that you have an advisor that is there to explain things to you in a way that you understand, will take the time to answer your questions and guide you through the process. At First Time Finance, that is exactly what we do, and we've developed our service to do that correctly and making sure that we're providing the right value and the right service. So I would say working with the right company. I'm going to be biased here and say that is us at First Time Finance, but it is just very, very important because you don't want to end up working with a broker that's just there to get paid and doesn't really care about you. You want a team working with you throughout the process and guiding you through. So feel free to reach out to us if you need.
Yes, guys, please reach out. I have friends that, recently they just got their properties in the UK and they were helped by First Time Finance. So please reach out to them. I'm going to leave all their contact details in the description box, right? Now, before we go, let's talk about credit score, building your credit history and all. We know that it's very, very important, when it comes to getting a mortgage. As an expert, quickly, what's the best way you would say, or the fastest way, or the easiest way you would say is the best way to build your credit score in the UK?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is start early. Of course, not everyone can control that, but if you're planning on moving to the UK now or have just moved to the UK in the last 6 months, get started. Make sure that you've got things registered to your address. So once you've settled at an address, you're renting somewhere, your utility bills, make sure those are registered, set up correctly, bank account. It is useful to take out some form of credit. So although earlier I was saying people get told to take out credit and then they'll unfortunately miss payments, it does help to build up your credit score long term if you have some credit. But don't go out and take out five different credit cards. You might only need one, right? If you've got your utility bill set up, that's on there. You can get your credit card, for example, set up. Use a very small amount. If you've got a maximum limit of £500, only use £100 and pay it off in full each month. You don't need to be using the full amount, and just make sure that is cleared in full each month consistently. And over a long period of time, let's say a year and a half, that will really build up your credit profile. Important for me to say, you do not need a perfect credit score, 999 credit score to get a mortgage. If you've had no mistakes, you've not got missed payments and things, if your credit score is well, it depends on the provider, but if we're looking at Check My File, they go up to 999. Even if it's 700, 650, a lot of the time it can be completely fine. It's more the mistakes, so things like missed payments, defaults, county court judgments, things like that, that can cause real issues. So yeah, build it up, start early, take out a credit card and use a small amount of it, and over time it will build up. I did read something the other day, and I don't have all the information on this, so I'll mention it, but it may be best for people to do their own research about being able to use your rent payment to build up your credit profile. Something to do with, I think it was Experian, allowing people to use their rent or associate their rent to their credit profile. So then that helps to build up their credit score. So I don't know much about it, but definitely check that out if you're watching this and see if that's something that you could take advantage of.
So thank you so much, Ripley. Like, this was so eye-opening, and you have just reassured us that despite everything going on, in fact, we shouldn't focus on everything going on. We should focus on just doing our best, buying our houses, and just living our lives. So thank you so much. So for everybody who would want to get their property, get a mortgage in the UK, Ripley and First Hand Finance, they're your plug. Feel free to reach out to them and get started. I'll leave all their details in the description box. And if you have more questions, leave in the comment section as well, or reach out to them. And there's also a free webinar that they have coming up on the 3rd of December. I'll also leave the link in the description box as well. Feel free to join. There you can ask questions directly, and I'm sure they'll be glad to answer all your questions. Okay, the goal is for everyone to own properties. Just get on the property ladder, stop paying rent. It's high time we stopped paying rent and get on the property ladder. So thank you so much, Ripley. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, and thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.